Morning. It's my pleasure to kick off this morning's proceedings and to share with you some thoughts about a new geography of innovation. You represent a new geography of innovation in a sense. Some of you have come from the other side of the world, others from just down the street. So to see you here is to feel like the world has become small and at the same time to be reminded that it is quite large and complex and filled with both challenges and opportunities. So, with the diversity and the brainpower of people in this room, I'm sure there isn't any challenge that we can't address together, especially if we are mindful of this notion of a new geography of innovation, which I believe informs the core theme of our entire GCF meeting in 2011, the notion of innovation as a means to competitiveness. It's my hope that by the conclusion of this three-day assembly, we will have energized and understood in a new way both of these words, innovation and competitiveness, through the lens of this new geography. What do I mean by this? Let's have the first slide, if we could, please. In the late 1960s, the Apollo space program enabled this remarkable photograph, the Earth from space. For the first time, we saw the Earth as a whole system, beautiful, fragile, and it's not a coincidence, I think, that the environmental movement got impetus. 1970, for instance, saw the founding of the Club of Rome, based on the notion that the Earth was a system. We had to start thinking about resources as being finite. We had to think of ourselves as being wise stewards of the world's bounty. And I believe that we are in a similar moment in history today when it comes to innovation. I believe that we are coming to realize that innovation is not just a property of companies that seek to create new products and services that they can sell at a profit to realize scale effects so they can increase their prosperity and earn executive bonuses for leadership, but that innovation is fundamentally also a property of societies. The organization that I chair, the Institute for Large-Scale Innovation, was explicitly started to address this notion of innovation as a societal agenda, and not just a societal agenda for individual countries, but also as a societal agenda for global civil society. Now, why is this important? First of all, we have a perspective, the Earth from space. But if I take you one step further, and if I could see the next slide, we are in a moment where I believe the world is increasingly coming to resemble a brain. And with that opens up many new possibilities for innovation and requires us to think about competition in a new kind of way. I'll just touch on a few. These will be, I'm sure, abiding themes of the conference, but the whole acceleration of technology, the fact that we're soon to have 20 billion digital devices connected through the internet and social media, resembling nothing more or less than the brain cells, the neurons in a human brain. The proliferation of technology is simply remarkable, and the acceleration of that proliferation. One social scientist remarked recently that the number of semiconductors in the world is now equal to the number of ants on planet Earth. And it may or may not be an accurate description. I don't know how he actually did that study, but it's evocative of the fact that technology has accelerated to the point where we now have this overall global sense of connection, which is also supported by a globalizing sense of a business culture, a culture of enterprise and entrepreneurship, but is also supported, and this is a core theme of my brief remarks here, by the globalization of innovation capability at a societal level. And this is really the core of what I mean when I refer to a new geography of innovation. So if I could see the third slide, please. Don't focus on the words, which I recognize are a little hard to see, but focus on the world map. This came from a Harvard Business Review article I wrote a couple of years ago where I plugged in a whole bunch of variables as to national capabilities for innovation. And the size of the country represents the size of the innovation muscle that country has. Now, there are three observations that I want to make about this map. First of all, the United States, which was the only game in town in the post-World War II era, for many inevitable historical reasons, is one of a community of innovation nations. That's a sort of an inevitability. The second point to be made is that many countries, by my own informal count, perhaps as many as 24 countries around the world are actively pursuing large-scale innovation capability development programs that involve a tremendous amount of investment, strategic attention, and the like. The third observation is that small countries like Finland, like Singapore, can become global players in an innovation economy and influence the global innovation landscape far above their size. So in the new innovation economy, in the innovation world that we're moving towards, influence is not necessarily based on physical resources, GDP, size of population, size of manufacturing capability, but is rather based on brain power, on the ability to generate new ideas, on the ability to commercialize those ideas in a timely fashion, and to, in short, become a version of an innovation nation. Now, why is this important? It's important because the world is becoming a laboratory for different national approaches to innovation. I know this. I travel around the world. I advise governments. I see countries have different points of view on innovation, different definitions, different metrics, different best practices. We're in an era of exploding knowledge about innovation. So rather than say to you, there is a 3-ring binder with all of the answers about innovation that we just have to study, my core message is that all of us are, in a sense, in a process of discovering the innovation practices that are appropriate for our specific societal environments. And that makes it very exciting. It also creates many opportunities for what I call innovation arbitrage, which is to say that linking together innovation geographies at different levels of development with different levels of assets can create business models. It used to be, for example, that a pharmaceutical company was a big, vertically integrated giant located in Switzerland or New Jersey. But if we fast forward to today, there are pharmaceutical companies with 10 people, not 10,000, but 10 people, because all of the activities that we traditionally associate with innovation are outsourced to other jurisdictions. So, for example, I have friends in San Francisco, 10 people, 2 cardiovascular drugs, no PhDs, no laboratories, no people in white coats saying, "Eureka, I have found it." But all of the research, all of the medicinal chemistry, all of the clinical trials being outsourced to India, to Poland, to other jurisdictions. So the business model of being a systems integrator in this world, which creates the opportunity for innovation arbitrage because of the distribution of innovation assets, is, I think, a new way of looking at things and ought to be a set of guidelines for looking at how to harness the power of innovation for competitiveness. So that brings me to another point, which is the need, in a sense, or the opportunity, rather, to redefine competitiveness. The traditional view of competitiveness, which is why I'm often uneasy when I use the word, is I win, you lose. And in a world with physical assets, it's not hard to understand. If I have something and you take it from me, or you have more of that, whatever it is, we are operating in kind of a zero-sum I win, you lose environment. But an innovation world, one which traffics in ideas and talent and the flows of those, is a world of, you could say, non-zero-sum business logics, where if I win and I have ideas and I have resources, you win. You have ideas and resources. We collaborate, we share, we have the opportunity to make bridges in a way that is different from the traditional business models of assets that are defined by physical characteristics. So this notion of finite versus infinite games also plays into our need to redefine competition. A finite game is where I win, you lose. We play soccer, we play basketball, there's a score at the end, one side is the winner, and we adjourn. But an infinite game in the literature is defined as a game with no end, where winning means that you get to continue to play. And that is the nature of an innovation nation, a large-scale innovation strategy, and I would argue where we are heading to in terms of being an innovation world. And goodness knows we need this. the world is faced with innumerable horrific challenges, grand challenges of pungent description. And you could say that never before in history has the gap between the needs for innovation and our ability to deliver innovation been so broad. So we need a new sense of how to work together as a global community to address global grand challenges for the common good. And to do so, we need a new narrative around how to do innovation, how to understand competitiveness through the lens of this new geography of innovation, which the diversity of the crowd in this room, I think, will easily enable us to do. If we can figure out how to do this during our session together, our time together will have been worth it 1,000 times over. So I wish us good luck in considering these themes, and thank you for your attention.